Hey guys, Nick Nack here, and I'm here to bring my Better Late Than Never Top 10 Games of 2025 video. I'm doing this one now because I was busy with work and getting ready for a concert that happened near the end of January. As per usual, these are games that I've only played, which means I haven't played all the big hitters that were nominated for Game of the Year. So don't expect to see titles like Death Stranding 2, Donkey Kong Bonanza, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 on here because of that. As always, before I begin, let me give some quick honorable mentions. The best way to describe Clover Pit is as Balatro, but with slot machines instead of creating poker hands. It would be higher if it weren't as frustrating as the aforementioned game. Long story short, Megabonk is basically 3D Vampire Survivors, but with weird internet humor. Desktop Survivors 98 is a roguelite that's a bit similar to Vampire Survivors. It stands out with its references to 90s Microsoft. Finally, Oblitus Mortis is a Metroidvania developed in Venezuela, and I was interested in trying it for that alone. I only put a few minutes, however, but the gameplay and art style are very nice. Now that the honorable mentions are out of the way, let's finally begin. Starting up the list at number 10 is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, a game I've picked up for cheap because I have an interesting fondness for the film. This is a collectathon platformer that adapts the film pretty well. What made this good was the collecting aspect being easy, along with some challenging quests that work for children. Also, for a cheap game, the presentation wasn't all that bad, as the levels and characters were nice to watch. Sure, it's short, and you might look at me weird for saying that it's better than the honorable mentions, but was a fine and cheap game to pass the time with. Coming in at number 9 is Kill the Music. One of the biggest surprises for me as the developer's last game I can get into. Kill the Music is a roguelite mixed with a rhythm game that's relaxing to play and fun to listen to. It's simple yet fun, as all you're doing is tapping a few buttons while your character dodges and automatically attacks enemies. The gameplay might be nothing special, but they make up for it with an amazing soundtrack and the style of something you'd hear in Scott Pilgrim. Also, unlike most roguelikes, this one has a story which you piece together after completing each run. It may not be the most exciting game this year because of its simplicity, but it's one that's great to chill to. Plus, the developer is Filipino, so that's a big win for me. At number 8 is Marvel Cosmic Invasion. Of course I had to play this since Shredder's Revenge was my 2022 Game of the Year, and this one of course was just as good. It's a standard beat-em-up, but plays very well, and you can tell the developers know good games as it references tons of Marvel vs. Capcom themes. What makes this one stand out though compared to previous ones is letting you control two characters that provide tons of replayability and ways to go through the game. In addition, the game has a very solid roster of unique characters and some beautiful 2D artwork. Now, it may not have blown me away like TMNT in terms of its final boss and short length, but Cosmic Invasion was well worth the playthrough. Number 7 goes to Quartet, a game that got promoted in a video talking about indie JRPGs. Quartet was a good game that's in the style of titles like Breath of Fire and Old Final Fantasy. It's a solid story following 4 groups of characters and how they come into one that involves magic and parallel worlds. What makes this game good though was its gameplay, with world exploration and how the combat feels like a SNES game but with more strategic elements. There were some parts of the game that may be lower on here, like iffy battles and a world that didn't have enough exploration, but this was a solid game that I hope gets a sequel in the future. For my number 6, I'm giving it to Ender Magnolia, Bloom in the Mist. The first game, Ender Lilies, was my second favorite game of 2021, so of course this had to be copped. This is as equally great as the aforementioned. A fun Metroidvania exploring a somewhat apocalyptic world while getting to know the mystery of what happened to the protagonist. There was so much to take in, from the gorgeous art style, a soundtrack that was maybe even better than its predecessor, and solid gameplay that gives lots of ways to take on enemies while also gaining abilities that help with exploration. Despite these positives, it unfortunately ranks this low because it honestly feels the same as Lilies, to where at times it doesn't feel like a sequel. Even with this criticism, Magnolia was a damn good game, and one positive about it is that you don't need to have played Ender Lilies to get into this one. Just go straight into it. Making it to number 5 is Ball X Pit. I saw this roguelike pop up on Game Pass and I knew I had to try it, and I'm glad I did. This one consists of going through various levels with attacking enemies in a combat style similar to Breakout. It's just fun going through these enemies with an array of characters that have differing ways to attack. After each run, you're given materials that lead to a city building part that leads to better runs. It's a relaxing and addicting loop that I've put hours into, while also having an interesting art style and soundtrack. Sure, the story and characters are non-existent, but I'm enjoying my time with this, and I think it deserves the nominations for Best Indie at a lot of shows. Coming in at number 4 is Shinobi Art of Vengeance. Had to support this because it was part of Sega's Game Awards reveal lineup, and I'm very happy to say this game delivered. An action game that has the similar structure to Mega Man with a bit of Metroidvania elements, Art of Vengeance just delivers on a whole lot. The art direction is a beautiful 2D look full of pale colors that describe the world, the story is easy to get into, and the soundtrack brings excitement to its stages. But obviously the biggest positive is the gameplay, as you'll find groups of enemies all around you while traversing the area with Metroidvania elements. The combat feels so crisp, while the enemies have a nice difficulty to them. In addition, while the exploration elements don't feel tacked on, and it's fun to use your new abilities and replay areas to get new things. Art of Vengeance was one of 2025's best that had little flaws, and let's hope the upcoming Sega titles in the future deliver as much as this one. For my number 3, we have Hollow Knight Silksong. The first one was one of 2017's biggest surprises, so I knew I had to play this, and of course, it's as good as the first. In some ways it feels similar to first from its presentation and dreary world, but the gameplay feels different. Maybe it's because I haven't played the first one in over 8 years, but I found Hornet to play faster than the original. I also thought some of the newer abilities and features made it feel different. Speaking of the aforementioned world, the new characters are very memorable, and trying to figure out the craziness going on is intriguing. It may have some flaws compared to first, but I've enjoyed Silksong, and it well deserves the awards for Best Action Adventure Game. My runner-up spot at number 2 goes to Digimon Story Time Stranger. I love Cyber Sleuth, so you know I had to buy this. Gotta say, this one was as good, if not better than it. It has similarities to Cyber Sleuth with turn-based gameplay and ways to obtain various Digimon, but they take parts from well-known titles in the genre and use it here to make it better, like defeating enemies quickly thanks to your party being stronger. That's just the tip of the iceberg though, as the game also excelled in providing better cutscenes than its predecessor, as well as a really good story with interesting reveals in the plot. I do admit Time Strangers has some flaws though, as they're propped up with stuff that feels like filler near the end of the game, and the game's structure was a bit of a chore. Even with all of this, I found this game to be a blast, and it deserves the love I'm giving it, and from others as well. And finally, coming in at number 1, as no surprise, is Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I bet most of you are already tired of people praising this game, but there is a good reason on why they are. It is really that good. It was a title that excelled in almost everything, from the beautiful world and art direction, a beautiful array of music, a compelling story that has amazing twists, and a really interesting ending, and some damn good gameplay. Now sure, it doesn't do anything different, as this combat has been used in games like Mario and Luigi, as well as Shadow Hearts, but it feels more fast and active compared to a ladder, and it's so fun trying to learn enemy patterns. The abilities each character have are also fun, with how they play different, and finding the perfect way to go after enemies. Pretty much, I'm just an RE33 fan, and even though it does have some flaws that are considered minor, like how the characters move and how the world doesn't compare to most like past games in this genre, this was my favorite game last year, and I do hope it serves as an example on what studios should take notes on. So those were my favorite video games of 2025 last year. Like always, let me know what some of your favorite games were last year down in the comments. And let's just hope that I actually decide to have the time to make more of these vids in the future. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching, take it easy, and until next video,